just ringing Jonathan Smith.
Hello, Jonathan Smith.
Oh yes, hello, Mr. Smith. It's Mr. Hussain here. I was wondering if this is a convenient time to talk.
Yes, I've got a meeting at 3:45, Mr. Hussain, but I've got sort of seven or 8 minutes.
Okay, all right. Well, if we don't get through something, we can always rearrange. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so you know who I am. It's regarding Manningham Housing Association.
Yes, you're the first defendant.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Now, I've received your application, recent application. I think it was last Thursday, and
Yes.
I think they've issued the order today. Have you received a copy of it?
I've received an application. I don't think it's going to be heard on the 9th. I think it's going to be heard on the 17th.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So obviously, as part of that order, it does say that we can speak, and I'm just surprised that we've not managed to have a conversation previously. Obviously, there are many outstanding issues that need to be resolved for this hearing coming up next week. One of the main concerns I have is that why have you been so reluctant to engage with me via email?
I wouldn't say it's. I think what you have to understand is I'm happy to have any sensible conversations that are going to move things along, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way. I'm just not sure that the questions that you're asking, and of which had been largely answered anyway, were really taking matters anywhere. It seemed to me that there was an attempt perhaps to distract from the thing that I was actually trying to get to, which is what happened on the 8th of August.
What happened on the 8th of August?
Well, I think that's my question. My understanding is on the 8th of August that there was an arrest of yourself,
Uh-huh.
and that Mr. Hussain, your brother, was taken into the custody of mental health services.
Yes. Okay, well, can we focus in on this discussion, because obviously that is a pertinent issue, isn't it? Because as it stands, my questions relate to the mental capacity assessment, which was ordered by a judge at the last hearing, which you did attend. You were in attendance at the 18th of July. That's correct, isn't it?
Correct.
Yes. So at that hearing, an order was made for a capacity assessment to be carried out. And my position presently is that this is a perversion of justice where that's not been carried out. And the reason I say that is because can I just ask what happened to Kate Joss?
Kate Joss is taking a job somewhere else. She's no longer with
I see. Because as you're aware, this mental capacity assessment, which you were involved in on the 18th, it's not the first time it's come up, is it? It was originally scheduled, I believe, for the 11th or the 10th of January this year. And that was at the back of a court order before District Judge Wilcox on the 30th of November. Now, I had proceeded to put in an appeal to that application, which was accepted. But then Kate Joss, obviously I'm speaking a conversation that you've not had, but she informed me that irrespective of your appeal application being accepted and issued out, that because the order has not been stayed, we still are going to proceed with this. And so she was aware at the time, I think on the 10th, I'm just saying the 10th or the 11th, that there was a arrangement for a capacity assessment to be carried out. She was aware that an appeal had been accepted, but because technically the order of the 30th had not been stayed, and it came with penal notices, that she insisted that needs to go ahead. And then subsequently that could not proceed because of technical issues. And then the very next day, the order got stayed. So the severity or the seriousness of complying to the order was fully, put forward by yourselves as solicitors, saying, look, there's an order in place, it needs to be carried out one way or another. Now, under these let's just take that as a barometer or a goalpost or an ideal. Then subsequently, a further order has been made now by District Judge Mitchell, stating that this needs to take place in September. Now, obviously, I was arrested, and what concerns me is that how do you know about it?
Because the police issued us with information.
Yes, the police issued you with information from your own evidence now on an inquiry that was made to them on the 15th.
16th, I think, yeah.
No. The inquiry was made on the 15th. They returned back to you on the 16th, I believe.
Oh, right, okay.
But the question arises is that why did you make an inquiry with the police?
Well, of course I didn't. This is
No,
my client
I
was
know.
talking about.
So you see here, this is the pivotal point here, is that I was arrested on the 8th. There was no information given to you or Manningham Housing Association from me, definitely not from the courts, that I was arrested. So
But why do you think that's the pertinent point? Is how we found out,
no,
rather than
I think it's very
why you were arrested?
okay. I think it's very pertinent because you need to give me an answer. Why on the 15th had your those instructing you, specifically Mr. Harry Mansfield, contacted the police for information? Why on the 15th? It's unusual, isn't it? Why did they not contact the police on the 1st? Or why? It's very pertinent. It's a highly pertinent question, and I'll explain to you why it's pertinent. Because somebody must have informed you of my arrest.
Well, informed them of your arrest.
Yeah, well, when I say you, yes, because effectively at this moment in time, you are Manningham Housing Association because you represent them. It's difficult for me to quantify the word you, isn't it? It's like I've had this problem before. You is it's a problem with English language. I can't specifically say you, yes, you the person, you the solicitor, you.
Don't worry, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So when I say, just can you assume the fact that when I say you, I mean you the claimant, and of which you are the representative. And this aspect of disassociating yourself is irrelevant to me because at the end of the day, I can't speak to Manningham Housing, can I?
No, you can't speak for Manningham Housing.
Yes, I can't. I can't speak to them because they have a solicitor that they've directed me to speak to. So that's yourself. So the pertinent question is why on the 15th have you managed to, make inquiries? Who has informed you that I've been arrested? And now what I'm alleging, and I have always made this allegation and alleged that this case of which you are lawfully and rightfully acting as a proxy agent for, namely a solicitor, and solicitors by your very profession have to act as proxy agents, and it's lawful, it's nothing you're not going to hide that fact that you're acting on behalf of Manningham Housing, which is a lawful enterprise. But what my position is that Manningham Housing themselves are unlawfully acting as agents for the local authority Bradford Council. So this case being pursued by Manningham Housing, who are then obviously instructing you to act on their behalf, it's not their case. It's not even, on paper, yes, it seems that they're the claimants, but this case is being fully pursued by the local authority who are acting in the background. Now, so coming back to the question of why is it pertinent? Why would how did the Housing Association find out about my arrest? And coming back to my arrest, why was it, important to get arrested at that particular time? And so these questions do need to be addressed because there's no justification for having me arrested on that particular day. I don't know if you know the further circumstances of my arrest. If not, I can further elucidate you on the what happened.
What I have is literally what you've seen, actually.
Okay, all right.
That is the sum total of the information I have, which is why I was trying to get
all right.
more detail from you.
Okay, well, first of all, as you can appreciate, let's just address this issue. You contacted me on the 17th, asking me for if the appointment time of the 5th of September could proceed. Now, obviously, I responded by... I
think it was the 16th, actually. I think you might have responded on the 17th.
Yeah, maybe that's... it's clearly... The point is mute right now, what the particular day it was. But the bottom line is that you contacted me saying, oh, Mr. Hussain, we've got this appointment arranged as per the order. Do you agree to it? And I said, yes, of course I agree to it. You then come back to me and said, well, how can you agree to it? Because I know something that you don't know. And I've taken issue with this because, as you can appreciate, in the background, you do not know what I've been doing. I've obviously been trying to contact the police, trying to speak to them and stuff. So for you to know my bail conditions, it's highly circumspect to me, because if it was not organized or orchestrated in this manner, so when you, because what you got to understand is that the one person that knows the most about this situation is myself. You agree with me because yourself, as the solicitor, have only come on board on this case partway through. So you're not, although you must be familiar with the case, no doubt, because Kate just worked with you. But can you understand? Even under these circumstances, I know everything that's happened, and you can only get information from those instructing you, which is very, very limited, isn't it? So you agree with me that I'm the most all-knowing on this situation rather than anybody else?
Well, not particularly. What I agree with is I supervised Kate Joss, so I was aware of this case anyway. So I haven't just come in halfway through. I certainly was not there when you were arrested, if that's essentially what you were saying. You were the person who was there when you were arrested along with other people.
Okay.
That's fair, isn't it? I think you...
Well, no, I think the point that I was trying to make is in regards to this case, even if you're saying that you were acting in a supervisory role for Kate Joss, which thank you, you've accepted that, because the thing is, now everything that me and Kate Joss have spoken about or undertaken, you're confirming to me that everything that we've liaised with, and most of it has been via email, that you're fully abreast with what's going on with regards to myself and Kate Joss. So that's correct?
I have the case file.
Yes. So, but it's not just that. Okay, that's fair enough. So that's better for me, because obviously you're conceding that you know as much as Kate Joss did. So there's no that separation, and you were supervising her. So every contact that we had, me and Kate Joss had, particularly in August last year, you're aware of the telephone conversation that we had.
I will be aware of the fact that the phone conversation took place, and I'll be aware of what's on the file about that.
Yes.
And then the other discussions I have with Kate.
Okay, but the original point that I was trying to say is that I myself, regarding this tenancy, are the all-knowing in the regards that I've been on this. I know about the situation going back to over 2 decades. I know my interactions with those who are instructing you. So all I was just trying to say is that obviously I know fully what's going on. So when you've contacted me, first of all, explaining to me that we're going ahead with this 4th appointment, it seemed clear to me that it was a fishing exercise to get me, because at this stage, remember, it's only later transpired what you've disclosed to me, last week, that I was trying to understand how do you know what my bail conditions, and I thought it was a fishing exercise, which I believe it was, because what you anticipated was for me to say, well, actually, I can't go ahead with this because of X, Y, and so basically to get as the terminology says, get the cat out of the bag. You I believe, were instructed, whether knowingly or unknowingly, trying to get me to get the cat out of the bag. Hence why my earlier inquiries is that how did Mr. Mansfield know to contact the police for information? Who let the cat out of the bag? That's the question.
So I think what you're saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is what you're saying. You're saying I was instructed to pose the question to you in order to flush out the fact that you had been arrested and there were bail conditions. And then I would be able to then say, that's how I knew, because you told me. And the fact that you then replied and said, well, no, I'll go ahead with the appointment, didn't play along to that narrative, and therefore I had to disclose how I knew. Is that essentially what's been said?
Probably, yes, but the simple question is that, and it goes back to my earlier question, who let the cat out of the bag?
Yeah, you're saying... ultimately, I think what you're saying at the end of all of that is, who told my client about the arrest?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you're asking.
Yes.
I'm afraid I honestly don't know the answer to that question as I sit here now. But what I can tell you is that when I contacted you, I actually didn't know that you'd been arrested at all.
Yes.
I was actually thinking, let's make sure we get this in plenty of time, because the 5th of September will be here before we know it.
Yes. But
However, coincidentally, and it was coincidentally, of course you may not believe me on that, but I am telling you, coincidentally, I did then find out that you'd been arrested. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then you responded saying, well, actually, we can go ahead. And I said, well, actually, I don't think we can, because I don't think he's going to be back in your custody in time.
Yeah, okay. Well, the thing is, I mean, I'm not, with respect to yourself, I'm not going to start laying blame upon you when you're telling me these things. And it's really irrelevant whether you knew or whether you didn't know, or it's really even irrelevant to me whether you're acting with malice or with benevolence and your honesty, because you understand that ultimately what my allegations are is the aspect of compartmentalization. So you may even be ignorant of the fact of what has been played and where you have been utilized. So it frankly makes no difference to me whether you knew or you didn't know, or you're acting with, because you understand, because you're just giving instructions, so you play a small part in an overarching strategy, should I say. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the story, just as a sideline, that the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, his brother was murdered. Okay, and it was done by, unwitting individuals that had sprayed something on his face. Are you familiar with the story?
I can't say that I am. No.
Okay, all right. No, basically, what my position is that you potentially could be an unwitting pawn in this scenario, and you could be completely innocent. But it doesn't make a difference. It does not stop from asking the simple question, which you've obviously asked me earlier. Why is it pertinent? The question is, who let the cat out of the bag? Because it can be assumed that those instructing you were trying to, and you didn't know, but they were instructing you to trying to get me to accept that, inform you of or let the cat out of the bag that I've been arrested. So it's a very, very important issue here for me, from my perspective, is that I was arrested on the 8th. Who let the cat out of the bag? Because if I didn't let the cat out of the bag, the police wouldn't have contacted you to tell you this, for you to then make further inquiry. So can you understand how that would be an important aspect?
I think it's an aspect that I think is important to you. I don't see it as very important to the rest of the case. I think that what you say is, this is where we differ. You're saying, and of course I'm not, I think you're saying there is a conspiracy here. I mean, use whatever words you want to use, but I think that's really what you're saying broadly. There's a conspiracy between local authority, Manningham, possibly some other agencies as well.
Oh yes. I've been.
Your family.
Oh, I'm sorry to interject that. Oh yes, I'm undeniable about that. And you know how I address you. I say, as proxy agents for CBMDC. Yes. So isn't it? Yeah. Sorry.
So I think, and this is where we have the departure, because your case basically is, well, at least I think this is your case. You tell me if it isn't.
Okay.
I think your case is there is a conspiracy, and this is further evidence of the conspiracy because there's been discussions between the main players in the conspiracy that have told you about the arrest, have told Manningham about the arrest, and that is evident from the email trails. I think that's what you're saying.
No, that's not correct. Sorry.
I don't think there's a conspiracy.
Okay, all right. Well, that's not correct. That's not what I'm saying. And obviously, you don't like me to put words into your mouth, and similarly, I would not like you to put words.
I said you could correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to correct you, because obviously the allegations that I am making, you do not have evidence for, and those are ongoing allegations that I've been making from day one. Now, the simple aspect of it simply being incredulous, I think that we have to, I hope you can understand that that is not an argument or a defense of simply something being incredulous. Like, for example, I can give you many examples of incredulity, that the police don't go around killing and raping people. And you can say, well, that's an incredulous statement. But of the Sarah Avrad case. And similarly, you don't, it simply can be incredulous that nurses that have spent the best part of their life caring for babies would go around killing them. But as you're fully aware, it's not incredulous when we have something like Lucy Letby's case. Similarly, this aspect of what I'm saying is and this word conspiracy has a very negative connotation, and it also means that there's probably some aspect of my own mental health that needs to be brought into question when we mention conspiracies, because
I don't think so.
No, but I think people say tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, okay, and they have a very bad rap. But are you telling me people don't conspire?
Well, no, people on occasion, I think there will be conspiracies.
Yes, all the time.
Small, some large.
Yes.
But it's unusual, of course. But yeah, no,
but not,
I'm not denying that conspiracies are a thing.
Well, yes, of course. It may be unusual, but it's not that outside of the realms of possibility. Yes.
And I'm certainly not saying
that
in you saying that you're mentally unwell.
Well, others have. Okay,
well,
and others.
I am certainly not saying
okay.
I have no evidence for that whatsoever.
Okay.
It would be inappropriate for me to say so.
I know it would be inappropriate, but others have said that simply to dismiss my argument. And quite clearly, I just want to focus in on this, letting the cat out of the bag before I move on to this application, because you have effectively said something similar in the application you put in on Thursday, saying my defense is, I think the word is completely without merit and should be disregarded. And obviously that's something else we can discuss upon. But the narrative is still the same. I mean, something that you do not know, on which obviously I want to inform you of, is that, are you aware that I've put an appeal application in regarding the 8th of July hearing?
Sorry, you broke up slightly then.
Sorry. I said, are you aware that following the hearing on the 18th of July before District Judge Mitchell, that I have put in an appeal?
Yes, I found that out through the court.
Yes. So I put in an appeal, and what is interesting is that part of the appeal is that I've made those very same allegations to, in the appeal process. What has happened is that, obviously, as you know, there's a process that needs to be followed. It's interesting when we mentioned the 8th of August when I was arrested. What is even more pertinent is that 24 hours beforehand, I put in an application on the 7th of August. Were you familiar with this, what I put in on the 7th of August?
Well, the only thing I've seen around that date was your application dated the 3rd of August, I think.
Well, the 3rd of August one is one where I've made an application to basically have the case thrown out.
Yeah, you made the application to strike us out.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
Right.
Or strike out, yeah. But
It's the one, the 7th, the appeal of the case management decision of the 18th. I haven't seen.
oh, you haven't seen. Well, it's quite interesting because I say to the judge, because obviously, as you know, when you put an appeal in, you have to put in a skeleton argument. And
Yes.
I've said to the judge, I've said in that application, well, I need an extra extension of time because the appeal deadline was on the 7th of August. I have 14 days to put in a skeleton argument. So, I mean, obviously, I'll be putting in a skeleton argument, and where I will be providing evidence to substantiate my claims of judicial fraud taking place. So it's not just the fact that I'm stating, just for your clarity of understanding, I'm not just stating that there's something fraudulent happening by Manningham Housing Association acting as proxy agents for the local authority. I'm going a step further and saying that because the local authority are then instrumental in in orchestrating what's happening in the courts, and particularly by the judiciary. So they are effectively instructing the judiciary to so basically they're interfering with the independence of the judiciary by instructing them to for a and I think the terminology I use is privately commissioning out the services of the judges in order to railroad an outcome to their benefit. And the reason I say this is because, you know, if you take a step back, and it does make sense now when you take a step back, who is the ultimate beneficiary of this case? And the reason that, or more importantly, let's look at the finances. Who is financially going to be disadvantaged through this case? And it's not the housing association, because as far as the housing association, your employers or those instructing you, they're supposed to be a housing association. Their main priority is rental income, which they're not receiving, which they could be receiving. Because if they had given the tenancy in my brother's name or even in my name, we would have been able to claim housing benefit from the local authority. So do you understand how the local authority in the background, taking a step back, are the net financial beneficiaries of what's going on here? Because at this moment in time, those instructing you are a financial loss, and that financial loss arises from not receiving any rental income, which they're entitled to, which they would be getting if for the fact that there was no malevolence taking place. And the source of that income would not be coming from either me or my brother, it would be coming from Bradford Council. So Bradford Council have a financial incentive in order to basically create this scenario that we have before us. But coming back to the issue of what we were talking about, the pertinent issue of my arrest, what is relevant, very, very relevant, is the day before my arrest, I had put in the appeal application. I had explained to the judge or the courts that, hey, I'm now going to provide you with irrefutable evidence that there's judicial fraud taking place here by the local authority. I believe as a result of that email, within 24 hours, there was the social worker and the police at my door. Are you with me so far? Hello? Hello?
Sorry, I lost you there for a second, but I got up to the point where you were telling me on the 7th that just before that you put in your application in which you'd stated, I know you don't like the word conspiracy, but
I didn't say the word conspiracy. I'm sorry, I never said the word conspiracy. I don't like that word.
Which word would you prefer me to use?
A joint enterprise?
Okay, so you made the allegation of joint enterprise. That's where you got up to, and you think, I think you were going on to say that you believe it is connected to what happened on the 8th.
Yes.
As soon as that went in, they were told about it and said, "Got to take this guy out of the loop," as it were. I think that's what you're about.
Well, I didn't use that terminology, but effectively, yes. So I'm sorry, there's a bit of an echo on the line. Is what's that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It may be my hands free because I've started moving towards my meeting, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's fair enough. Obviously, I would like to tell you what's happened on the 8th. If now's a convenient time, because I think you're distracted. Can we arrange another time?
It's not that I'm distracted, it's just that I had to put it into a Bluetooth. That's all, because I'm having to move towards my other meeting. I'm afraid I'm in court for the rest of this week. But I'm happy to speak for another 10 minutes as I make my way to the meeting, if that's any good.
Okay, well, I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, I'll take what time you have available. So I was trying to explain that after 24 hours of submitting this appeal application, something very untoward happened. The police arrived at my door, and the circumstances are such that my brother was in the vehicle at the time, and a social worker who I've never met before, who I've never seen before, who's not my brother's social worker, I can't even remember his name, was saying that he wants to see my brother, he has concerns about him. And as soon as he told me we're doing a welfare check, I realized what was happening, because this was a malicious attack upon myself. But the circumstances were such that my brother was in the vehicle, and the social worker was looking to carry out a mental capacity assessment. So here we are with that key word again, mental capacity assessment, wanting to be carried out. And I obviously refused, and I said, no, this is a conflict of interest. But because he had come down with the police, he was adamant that he needs to speak to my brother. I took a step back and I said, I don't agree with this, but if you are insisting, because the police were very threatening towards me, then I said, okay, well, fair enough, get a translator. And so they were in the process of getting a translator to interview my brother, to carry out a capacity assessment, and then all of a sudden they decided to arrest me without warning. I was just flabbergasted because we were in the garden, so there was no justification. So after, obviously, I've been arrested, my brother's been now abducted. You've read my emails, right? But when I was at the police station, they were saying that allegations would be made that I had killed my brother. I'd killed my brother. All right, that's what was read to me by the statement of the social worker, who I'd never met before. And evidently, when they came to my house, my brother was in the garden, so obviously I hadn't killed him. So this whole issue with the police's involvement is, the plot thickens now, because the police have arrested me, which is an unlawful arrest, from my garden, and then proceeded to search the house. And obviously, subsequently, I've been asking the police and as you've read my emails, every single day I'm asking the local authority and the police, just tell me under what legal basis have you now abducted my brother? There must be a legal basis, because his mental capacity has not been established, has it? So
we haven't done a capacity. Well, we couldn't, as you know, we couldn't do a capacity assessment for this litigation.
Yes.
What I don't know is whether there's been an assessment of him as part of whatever process is now ongoing.
Yes, but can you understand that how this now, when you take a step back, how this basically advantages your client? It effectively undermines the whole case, doesn't it? And the fact that subsequently there's a...
I don't think it does.
Oh no, I think it's got everything to do with your client being advantaged, because one of the advantages is that, could you tell me, as somebody who had arranged the mental capacity assessment, how much it would have cost?
In truth, no, I can't. I don't recall.
Okay, well, what your colleague Josh has informed me that it's over £1,000.
Well, it will be over £1,000. Yeah.
Yes, and was it over £1,000 the last time when you had failed? Did you manage to pay that?
I'm not sure what the costs incurred, but it's not unreasonable to assume that it will be several hundreds and possibly more.
Even though it was a failed assessment.
Well, it's a failed assessment, but it failed because, as I understand it, the translator of the telephone was insufficient, and therefore it can go ahead. What the hourly rate was put into that, you may still have to pay them for a cancellation charge or, can't proceed charge. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it certainly won't have been for free. But are you suggesting that how we come into this conspiracy, well, you don't like the conspiracy, this joint enterprise, is that we save on the mental capacity assessment. I don't think we do. I think we're most likely to still have to undertake.
Well, the reality is that, okay, because yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. Well, that is the reality, is it? Because as it stands presently, you've not that cost has not been incurred by you, has it?
Well, it hasn't been incurred now, but it's more costly to do it this way. We're still going to have a mental capacity assessment.
Yes.
And in the meantime, we're going to be delayed in getting control of the property back, or we're going to have to pay increased solicitor's fees. So it doesn't follow that this is a cheaper route for us. It's far more inconvenient.
No. Actually, what was meant to happen was that not you personally, but those that lay these plans, and this is the saying, plans laid by mice and men. What they were expecting to happen was that because they had come with the police and a Mariah van, now that was unnecessary. What they were expecting me to do, because they have a history of raising these allegations that I'm a violent, aggressive individual, what was anticipated was that I was going to be aggressive to the police, and that would have then permitted me to be remanded in custody. You do accept that if I had been remanded in custody, then the whole case, I lose the whole case, don't I?
If you're remanded, you lose the whole case? No, you don't.
Pardon?
If you're saying if you're remanded in custody, you lose the whole case, no, you don't.
Yeah, well, of course I do, because I'm in prison right now, all right, and the property's empty, and my brother's not here. But so effectively, the property, you've got what you wanted through subterfuge, haven't you? You've got me out of the property through this enterprise that was set up on the 8th of August. That was what was meant to happen. Unfortunately, obviously I saw through this fraud, and I did not give the justification to be remanded in custody. But it is correct in it that your client is looking to get me out of this property at all cost.
No, my client is trying to get vacant possession through the proper judicial route. But if you've been convicted, let's say you had been remanded, and let's say your brother was taken to a care facility of some sort. I think what you're saying is that my client benefits because it would then gone up to court and gone, there you go, you can just dispose of this now. One of them's in jail, one of them's in hospital or wherever.
Yes.
Well, that isn't right. The court wouldn't then say there's no possession order.
Yes.
That isn't what would happen. No,
yes. Well, the thing is, like I said, formally what would happen is one thing. What informally happens is quite another thing. But irrespective, we're speculating here, aren't we? That's not what's happened. The reality is that I was not remanded in custody. I returned back to the property. But what is pertinent is that since the 8th of August, there is no legal justification for me not to see my brother. Because the bottom line is that look, it would have been one thing, because those that laid the plan would this, that they would come to the house, I would not open the door, the police would break in the door, and then they would manufacture a reason for them, for the entry. None of that happened. The door was not broken in. We were outside in the garden. At the time of my arrest, there was no justification for me to be arrested. Subsequently, following my arrest, obviously they've come into the house and made some allegations that the house is in unkept condition. Even if that was the case, there is no legal justification for them to deny me access to my brother. My brother, obviously, I claim he has mental capacity. I always have done. I claim that he has capacity. And as you can see from the emails that I'm sending him, the emails that I'm sending the solicitor, is that they're not replying. And for me personally, and as you can see equally, when I'm sending you emails, you're not replying as well, which I believe I've been instructed not to reply. How can it be two different individuals? So there's you, Mr. Jonathan Smith of DF solicitors for acting for Manningham Housing Association, are receiving an email every single day, and you're not bothering to reply. And equally, this has been emulated by the Mr. Graham Kenner of Bradford Council not replying. Why would you not reply? You see, that is factual, that is a fact, and that I've forwarded on in my further appeal application on Thursday, is that, look at these two individuals. They're all solicitors. They're telling me they don't want to talk to me. They're not even replying. There's no justification for either party not to communicate with me via email. And so that in itself is circumstantial evidence, if not anything else, that you.
Can I ask a question? I think you said something about filing something on Thursday. I've got no. I'm sorry, I've no clue what that is.
Okay, well, basically, it's regarding my appeal application.
Oh, right, okay.
So,
you should be sending. I don't mind that you haven't on this occasion. Just, I haven't had a terribly successful time of getting documents from Bradford Court either, or orders. I'm still missing a number of orders. Is it possible that when you file this, you can copy it to me so I've got the documents as well?
Well, the thing is, as you're a solicitor, you fully know how this works. When you file an application, it would be simply courteous of you to inform me equally. You don't do that, do you? You have not done that. You, when I say you, obviously I'm not referring to yourself, but
no, I have.
No, you haven't.
How have I not? The only one I filed, I had copied you into.
And I did say that word you, didn't I? I said you, not the singular you, but the collective you.
But Manningham haven't made any applications into Quran.
Yes. Well, let me explain something to you. When you made the initial application, and when I say you, I mean the collective you, the initial application was made in March 2022. So that when you made the application, you did not inform me. You wrote out to me, I believe on the 7th or the 8th of February, saying that you were, unlawfully trespassing. You then proceeded to, without further engaging with me, put in an application to the court, not informed me about it. Once it's been issued and a court date has been given, only then have you informed me. That's what you did on the first occasion. Then subsequently, on that first occasion, when you were attempted to make these case that I should be removed as unlawfully trespassing, and I've gone to court and I've explained how you've not lawfully terminated the tenancy. It is a fact that Manningham Housing Association, through yourself, withdrew that case, and then you subsequently proceeded not to once again engage with me all through the month of June. All right, when I've sent up daily emails to you, you've not engaged with me, and then subsequently you've pulled a fast one by putting an application without making me aware and telling me that on the 5th of July there's a hearing coming on. So these as I call them, dirty legal tactics that have been employed against me, now you're complaining that I'm employing them against you.
No, I'm just asking if you wouldn't mind.
But these are
just copying me in so that when we have a discussion like this, I know what you're talking about. Okay,
well, that's fair enough. But these are dirty tactics that have been employed by you in the past. And when I say you, the collective you.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
And it's also it's clear, as Kate Josh's manager or supervisor, why did Kate Josh not attend the remote hearing on the 5th of July?
I wouldn't know that off the top of my head, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well,
maybe she didn't have. Do you mean the 5th of July this year or last year?
Last year.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I wouldn't have that information.
Because obviously 5th of July, she's not here now, is she? She's no longer works with you. What can I ask when she left?
It was earlier on this year.
Yeah, I believe it was February. And but obviously it wouldn't have been July this year. It was July last year. I'm as you can appreciate, I'm a single person. I'm not legally qualified, and I'm getting sick and tired of having to deal with this level of malevolence and fraud being committed against someone like myself and my brother. As you can see by speaking to me, that I'm a very level-headed individual, and you've seen my applications. I'm looking to do a very difficult job here on my own. But coming back to the situation regarding the 8th. The 8th was quite clearly a contrived fraudulent attempt, which we're now suffering the consequences of. Have you received my email of yesterday called Gotcha, BITCH? Yes, and as you can see in the chronology of that email, that I'm sending emails every single day to the solicitors at Bradford Council, and they're not replying. Now you will tell me, Mr. Hussain, that's got nothing to do with me. That I'm separate from them. I don't know why they're not replying, but quite clearly and evidentially, when you take a step back, there is a theme that's being perpetrated that is to me and my brother's detriment, and that is to you as the collective you that are looking to persecute and oppress us as to their benefit. Now, I just want to focus in on the fact that on the 18th of July, can you understand something really fraudulent has happened? Because on the 31st of May, before District Judge Mitchell, neither you or I attended, and yet orders were made. Don't you think that's kind of strange? Is that not unusual?
I'm sorry, because I just don't have any knowledge of that, I wouldn't really want to speculate.
Okay, because the thing is, there was a hearing on the 31st of May 2023, before District Judge Mitchell, and neither you or I attended, yet the judge proceeded to create orders for the 18th of July.
Oh yeah, well, isn't that in that case, what happened is none of us had turned up. The judge had worked out that something had gone wrong with the hearing notification, because neither of us got it. And I think he gave directions for it to be back in front of him on the 18th.
Yes.
I don't think I got the listing for the one on the 18th either.
Well, I only
found out because the court got in touch with me.
Well, the only reason the court got in touch with you is because I contacted them and asked them, have they been in touch? Okay, and I don't think you... So what you're telling me is that you as the legal representative solicitor's firm for Manningham Housing Association, you did not get the court listing for the 31st of May and the 18th of July.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I believe I subsequently got things from the court. I believe at the time I was not aware of it at all. It came as a complete surprise to me. So I had to hastily put together a witness statement to that effect.
I understand, because that was a very late witness statement you filed, about I think 7, 8 o'clock the day before. But the bottom line is that there's failures on the part of, and you can say that these are just failures or mistakes. I don't think they are. I think there is a concerted effort being made in order to railroad this case through. But focusing in on the capacity...
Wait, when you say that, do you mean that the court... Is that you saying that the court's in on it insofar as it's not sending out the orders, or it's making orders without people being there? That's it.
Well, let me explain something to you. Do you know, I always ask who is the head of an organization. So the head of the organization for Manningham Housing Association is Lee Bloomfield, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask who is the head of your organization? Is it DFS?
DWF is a board that runs DWF.
DWF. And who is the most senior partner or the chief executive?
That would be Sir Nigel Knowles.
Okay. But do you know who the chief executive of Her Majesty's Courts and Tribunals is?
I really don't.
Well,
Chancellor.
No. The chief executive of the Courts and Tribunal Service is one Mr. Nick Goodwin. Mr. Nick Goodwin only became the chief executive earlier in 2022. Previously to his role as chief executive was as he was the public guardian for the UK. So he ran the public guardianship office. I have made clear, categorical allegations against Mr. Nick Goodwin that he had facilitated and enabled the death of my mother and had also facilitated my brother's court of protection case. So do you see that is a conflict of interest? So it's not simply a case of me pulling basically something out of my hat. Mr. Nick Goodwin have a long history together, particularly in regards to my brother Talib. He was instrumental in facilitating the local authorities' involvement in order to undermine my lasting power of attorney for my brother Talib. And presently there's some serious allegations being made, and I'm sure you're slightly been a privy to that. My allegations are that this obviously you're going to tell me this is also incredulous, but that my fundamental allegations were that my mother was murdered by the state. And that doesn't normally happen, does it? But in order for that to be happening, that necessarily must be a conspiracy or a joint enterprise. There has to be. Otherwise, it's simply incredulous that the state can go around killing people. But that is a reality that I'm living through. And it all stems around. So it's not just simply I am saying the courts and tribunal services are acting dodgy or in part of this joint enterprise. I can clearly evidence to you it's a conflict of interest now where I'm having to deal with the courts and tribunal services when their chief executive, the most senior individual, I have laid allegations of fraud and murder to, particularly in regards to my brother Talib's case. So it's not simply unfounded or coming out of nowhere. So, but more than this, I've made allegations in the past that senior, not just, it's beyond doubt for me personally that solicitors have their services privately commissioned out or compromised to the local authorities' narrative. It's beyond doubt for me to establish that barristers and the lower officials, I would say, are compromised. I have enough ample evidence for this. But what surprised me is that not only magistrates or district judges or Crown Court judges, but in the case of my mother, High Court justices in the High Court in London have equally been conscripted in order to facilitate the local authorities' narrative. So it's not just limited to a small like here in Bradford or this particular case, this is an ongoing issue. And the reason that although like somebody like yourself would find that very incredulous, what is not incredulous, and which you will agree with me on, because you cannot not agree with me on, is the social care crisis that the UK is facing. You know there's a social care crisis, yes?
How would you define that?
Well, it's all over the news, isn't it? There's a funding crisis in social care, elderly people. Yep.
There are challenges within the social care sector.
So, well, you say the word challenges, whereas the people that are in the sector say it's on the verge of collapse. And particularly in my particular circumstances, me and my family are the unwitting victims of this social care crisis. Effectively, as a result of the 2008 economic financial collapse, the local authority was stripped of money, and they then withdrew money for my support for my brother, and hence why I've been so militant in looking to hold them to account, where they have then turned tail and are targeting me. So there is a concerted effort, and obviously the local authority are quite clearly aware of my remuneration charging policy of the care that I provide. They're fully aware that I charge £1 million a week for the care that I provide, and this property that you're looking to remove now, I've made it clear to the local authority, this is my care home, and that I run to facilitate care provisions for my brother and my mother previously, and as a result I charge, the care home itself is £350 million. So I always talk in the terms of millions of pounds. If I'm using the word millions, it does not result in other people acting nefariously, should it? I mean, you can simply dismiss my claims as fantasyful. But what is actually happening is that the local authority are taking those claims very seriously and are looking to hound and persecute me and my brother. And all they're effectively doing is justifying and validating my remuneration care policy. So I'm happy for this situation to happen. But the bottom line remains is that there is a concerted effort being made by quite senior individuals in order to victimize and target me selectively. All right, and you can say at this moment in time that, Mr. Hussain, I don't know anything about any of what you're saying. That is all news to me. I don't know nothing about this. But you would look to make the argument that everything, people do what they're supposed to be doing, and nothing nefarious is taking place. But as an intelligent person, because you're not going to tell me that you're not an intelligent person, considering that you're a senior solicitor, can you tell me this, that how can it be that I can be criminally convicted of defrauding my brother and my mother and then end up back in their care?
Is that what's happened? Have you been criminally convicted of both of those things? Because it really would surprise me if you were then in care of Mr. Hussain if he had a criminal conviction for fraud against you.
Yes, yes. So and so you're fully aware of how a criminal conviction works. Normally, the police get involved. It's a Crown prosecution case. But in my particular circumstances, none of that happened. The local authority simply came down, arrested me, and then put me in front of a judge and sent me to prison.
And how long did you serve in prison?
So I was sent to prison from January 2016. I came back in July 2017 to the surprise and dismay of the local authority, where I have then subsequently ended up back providing care and support services for both my mother and brother at this property of 20 Primary Way. Now, obviously, that does not sit well with them, because now how are they going to get the money? So then they've been begging me, and particularly my brother Talib, they've been begging me to take the money, and I've refused to take the money from them. But can you understand, this is clearly a conflict of interest, isn't it? First of all, it's very unusual that the Crown prosecution don't get involved in a criminal conviction. They were sidestepped, and the local authority criminally convicted me. They could only achieve that by effectively getting a judge on the side, Judge Saville. What they do often is that they bribe solicitors and say, look, we'll make you a judge on a quid pro quo basis, that when we get one of our cases, particularly a case regarding myself, that you pull it through. And so that's what's happened in the past. That's why. So I was criminally convicted by the local authority back in 2016. It's all in the news. Your housing association are fully aware of it. What is interesting is that you should know now that the housing association have played their part in having me criminally convicted. Because you know why? Because in 2014, both Nazneen, who works for Manningham Housing, and Jonathan Coates came to my house, and my mother and my brother signed over a letter giving me power of attorney, which the Housing Association have. As part of the criminal investigation, the Housing Association have a very close relationship with Bradford Council. That information should have been passed on to Bradford Council, and therefore I could not have been criminally convicted. This collusion between Manningham Housing and Bradford Council is evidentially factual, because they now, in your possession, in your case file, you have letters, I believe April 2014, where both my mother and my brother have signed over lasting powers of attorney to me. Those are not like lasting powers of attorney that are registered with the OPG, but they're still authorizing me to act on their behalf. Those two letters, if they had been forwarded from Manningham Housing to the criminal investigation being carried out by Bradford Council, I could not have been criminally convicted. Subsequently, after my criminal conviction and return back home, both my mother and my brother have then proceeded to provide me with a legitimate lasting power of attorney registered with the Office of the Public Guardian. This is where Manningham Housing comes in now. In 2018, my mother signed over a lasting power of attorney to me to be her property and finances and health and welfare LPA holder. Nobody knew about this until the very first occurrence, because I don't work on speculations. I need hard facts and evidence. I needed to know that Manningham Housing Association have been acting complicit with the local authority. So the only party that knew about my lasting power of attorney was Mr. Jonathan Cole of Manningham Housing Association on the 18th of July 2018. That's when effectively the cat was out of the bag. That's when the cat came out of the bag, that I was my mother's lasting power of attorney holder. As an intelligent person and as a solicitor, you know that if my mother has subsequently given me the lasting power of attorney for her property and finances, this undermines the local authority's criminal conviction against me. So at all costs, that then needed to be overturned. And subsequently, in 2019, my brother Talib's done the same thing. He's given me his lasting power of attorney, registered with the Court of Protection, with the Office of the Public Guardian. Hence, why the local authority, in desperation, have had to commission the services of the then Public Guardian, Mr. Nick Goodwin, who is now the head of the Courts and Tribunal Services. This is a very, very complicated matter. There is definitely something that's untoward happening. It's not simply a case which the Housing Association will lead you to believe as an ignorant party to the background and circumstances, that we're just unlawfully trespassing and it's just a small case. It's a very, very complex case that involves numerous senior individuals, but ultimately that's resulted in my mother's death. Now, if I've made the allegations that my mother has been murdered, why is it today, a year and a half later, that there's no inquest being held? Okay, and the reason that they don't want to have an inquest is simply because that the evidence is undeniable, and the collusion of those instructing you of Manningham Housing Association is clearly evidential. Why has Mr. Cole of Manningham Housing on the 18th of July 2018, when I presented him with a lasting power of attorney for my mother and said, can you make a subject access disclosure so I can get a copy of the letters that my mum and brother signed in 2014, has he then chosen to contact Bradford Council's criminal investigation team? He was not authorized to do that.
I'm sorry, I can't comment on that. But I think really what it comes down, I'm sorry, because I'm going to have to start my meeting in a second. I think that what it comes down to, Mr. Hussain, is that if you believe that there is something in this, you're going to have to make your representations on Monday, aren't you?
Well, no,
that's why you should be thrown out.
Well, obviously, I put in the case, like I said, I'm quite happy for you to be involved. I'm quite happy for everybody to be involved because, look, Mr. Smith, we will look at it in the call now, but if, I'm going to make it quite clear to you, and I'll make it quite clear in court as well, that if you people, and I mean you, the collective, namely paid professionals, if you fail to cross a T or dot an I, I'll be onto you like a wolf. And the reality is that if you're doing what you say you're supposed to be doing, acting with honesty and integrity and doing what you're supposed to be doing, I can't touch you. But if any of you have conspired or conspired or done anything malevolent, then know this, that even after 20, 30 years, that this is a murder case. And I'm quite happy to have everybody involved because these are accessories to murder. My mother was murdered, and everybody else subsequently that I'm liaising with, this is now by the local authority a cover up. I'm happy to get everybody's name down because, as you're fully aware, in the mainstream media today, Russell Brand is being accused of sexual harassment claims over 20 years later. The bottom line is that if you're doing, look, I'm not making a threat to you, Mr. Smith. I'm just simply stating this, that if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you've got nothing to worry about me. All right, because I can't touch you if you're acting with honesty and integrity. But if there's malevolence and fraud taking place, which I believe there is, then the situation is gonna come to the light. And so let's just look to end the conversation here. I will say that if you are interested in seeing my arrest, I video recorded it all. It's on the internet. It's under the title of on Twitter. So you've been forwarded the email. In my email, you've been forwarded the address. You can see exactly how I was arrested. So there's no denying what's happened. It's a factual basis that I was arrested without unlawfully. So let's just look to end the call here. And can I look to arrange to speak to you next?
The delegate is, I'm afraid, you won't speak to me before the 9th because I'm in court constantly until the 9th, when, of course, you're making your application to throw out the claim. And if that's successful, then there won't be a lot to, well, there will be other things to talk about, I guess, but
well,
see how the 9th goes and take it from there.
Okay, well, it is usually good policy to have a agreed facts meeting before the hearing. Now, do you know when the hearing is on the 9th?
It's is it not 10 o'clock by Teams remote? It's be our barristers going along.
Okay, all right. Would we not have a conversation before the hearing?
Only if there's something to discuss. The court put us under, even though it was your application, we've been put under the order to produce a bundle.
Yes.
To have your application on with all the exhibits, and your defence, our claim, all that stuff. You will have just received, because I've just seen it from our trainee, the link.
Yes.
If you click into that link, you'll get into a bundle that has got hyperlinks on it and things. So that can be used. On Monday.
But so on Monday, just for clarity, on Monday the only thing that we're focusing in on is my case dismissal and also the capacity assessment.
Well, possibly not even the latter. On certainly the former, we're definitely dealing with your application. I think that might be it might be that they are only dealing with that part of it. I think they should probably deal with the capacity assessment as well, if I'm honest with you.
Because that's what the case was listed for. Because obviously, I'm going to put in another application this week, just so your heads up on it, and I will include you in it. And what I am going to say is that I'm saying that I'm going to ask permission from the courts to instigate litigation action against you, the Housing Association, for perverting the course of justice and undermining the court order. Because bottom line is, just before we finish off here, one more thing, just before we finish, why, Mr. Smith, have you not informed the courts that you could not complete the court order? You've known since at least the 17th of August that the order of District Judge Mitchell could not be complied with. Why have you not advised the courts accordingly?
Well, there is an answer to that. The answer to that is that I was rather hoping to comply with the spirit of the order by getting a capacity assessment with your brother anyway. You were involved to facilitate it because you were his carer. I was rather hoping we'd be able to get access to do the capacity assessment regardless, but we haven't been able to.
No, Mr. Smith, what I'm asking you specifically is that on the 17th of August, you cancelled the capacity assessment. All right, you cancelled it. Your evidence says you've given me evidence that you cancelled it on the 17th. There was a court order in place requiring you to carry out a capacity assessment. Why, knowing the fact that this could not proceed and the court order needed to be varied, why have you not got back to the courts and advised them that, sorry, we have now evidence basically that this cannot happen? Why have you not done that?
Because it would be proper for me when doing that is to put forward an alternative. And I didn't have anything to put
No, you don't need to. No, you don't.
You asked the question. You may as well hear the answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the answer is, I have to vary it to something. And I was rather hoping that I would be able to vary it by speaking to the new carer or the interim carer, if you like, of your brother. So I could say, well, this is the arrangements that we can put forward. So I left it in September to see what progress could be made on that. As it turned out, very little progress could be made on that. In fact, virtually no progress. So that's why I went back to vary the order at that point and before the deadline of the 2nd of October.
No, sir. The reality is, okay, so you're saying you put in a variation order. You've known since the 17th of August that this could not proceed. All right, and as a solicitor's firm,
I knew that we couldn't proceed. It could not proceed with you as the person bringing Mr. Hussein to the capacity meeting.
No, what? No, sir.
That is the reality.
No,
That's the extent of what I mean.
No, sir. You knew that the circumstances as set by the order on the 18th, because on the 18th, the understanding by the courts was that this should happen. Irrespective of me putting in an appeal, it's gonna happen. No, nothing's gonna derail this. And it didn't, and you knew on the 17th that this could not happen. The circumstances had changed. It was incumbent upon you to make the courts aware, or let effectively the cat out of the bag, so the courts know. Because as it stands, I refuse to tell the courts as well, because obviously I was trying to find out exactly how you're going to operate. You have a legal duty of care to ensure that the courts or the orders are complied with. Only very late on Friday, I believe, this Friday, on the 7 o'clock, have you put in an application, which has been obviously dealt with now. So obviously, I believe this is a clear, it goes in my favor, doesn't it, that what I'm saying does have validity, where everybody's been conspiring together, and this is a very serious matter. It's not something I take lightly, is it? Perverting the course of justice and committing like contempt of court. This is a contempt of court issue, isn't it? Because you were given an order previously, when you had an order from District Judge Mitchell in November last year, and had a penal notice associated with it. You insisted that if I don't comply, it will be contempt of court. So similarly, I'm just putting you on notice that I will be making a contempt of court and perverting the course of justice application to the courts. And let's just see if District Judge Mitchell is impartial, as everybody claims to be, because he should be aghast why a solicitor's firm such as yourself have not got in touch with them and informed him early on, before last week, that the order could not proceed. So yeah, I mean, I'm just going to giving you a heads up that I will be making an application for contempt of court and perverting the course of justice. And if you, as everybody claims, that District Judge Mitchell is impartial, he will reprimand you. But if he doesn't, like he didn't last time, because he didn't reprimand you last time for what happened, for not attending at the hearings and being told at the last minute, so it just further goes to my argument that the judges are having their services privately commissioned out by the local authority, who are desperately trying to railroad this through so that they can cover up the past failures and cover up my mother's murder. So I just wanted to give you that information, and you've told me that what you're telling me now simply makes no sense. It's just gobbledygook, that you were waiting for the new carer to come along. Which new carer? There is no new carer. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. We were proactively trying to make inquiries to see if we could have access to Mr. Hussein for a capacity assessment that did not involve you providing him to us.
But had we managed
that, and had we managed that, we would have had the capacity assessment.
No, you wouldn't.
We would have.
No, you wouldn't, sir. And I'll tell you why you wouldn't. Because the person that you would have got to carry out the capacity assessment, you've already cancelled on. And she herself would not have had availability until sometime late in October.
Well, but how do you know that?
Well, how do I know that? Yes, I do know this.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's not the information we were given. We were told that there was good availability in September. And so, yeah, it does make sense for us to have held on to try and make something of the deadline of the 2nd of October. When we couldn't do it because we just could not get to a position where Mr. Hussein was in a position to take the assessment.
Sir, I have it on good facts that Eleanor was, when you cancelled, she was not able to facilitate another. And as you can imagine, she was not able to facilitate the meeting until September, when you last contacted her in July. So you contacted her in July saying, we would like you to desperately do another capacity assessment. And she had stated that, I'm sorry, I don't have any availability. availability. You arranged for the 5th of September. When you cancelled on the 17th, you knew full well that she would not have any further availability in September.
That's not right.
It is right.
Not correct at all.
Would you like me to?
You're telling me what I know.
What do you know?
I did not know that. And as for if you're trying to insinuate that for the totality of August she was incapable of meeting us because of work commitments, that's not right either. She was on annual leave. She'd taken a big chunk of annual leave and didn't come back to the office until the 5th.
Sir, once again, let me just drop the truth bomb on you. Because when you failed to attend, when the prearranged assessment on the 5th of September, you know what I did? I attended on the 5th of September on my own at Manningham Common Community Centre, and I saw the fact that there was no arrangements in place. So I had it confirmed then, because you did not confirm to me whether it's been cancelled or not. So I attended. Following my attendance, I rang up Eleanor myself, and she had informed me. I said, "Why are you not here?" She told me that she was aware that it had been cancelled. So I said, "When have this been rearranged for?" She said, "Well, it hasn't been rearranged, and I don't have now any availability until October." So what you're telling me is complete gobbledygook now, isn't it?
It's really not complete.
It is complete gobbledygook, sir. Come on, please. I'm an intelligent man. I know exactly what's going on here. It is complete gobbledygook.
Yes. You were attempting to entwine me in this joint enterprise narrative.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm tempting to. You're already part of it, sir. Okay. No, I'm not. I'm just trying to say. I've just explained. Oh, you can deny that. Everybody denies it. But the bottom line is, you're just giving me some gobbledygook here, aren't you? About, we were looking to reassess before the 2nd. You did not do this, okay? And the reason that you didn't do this is because the collective you wanted to save on costs, and now it saved you a lot of money. And subsequently, like I said, I don't need to entwine you, Mr. Smith. You're already entwined. All right, okay, and it's only a matter of time before it all becomes exposed. All right, you're already entwined. The reality is that you, as a solicitor, and I've had this issue with your firm previously, you are fully aware of the complete debacle of your predecessor, Kate Josh's disclosure to me and giving me information from the Manningham Housing Association that doesn't even belong to me. You're aware of this, aren't you? When I raised this complaint, you must be aware of it, because in October, November last year, when I had made a disclosure request, Manningham Housing had proceeded to give me somebody else's data, and then they were complaining that it was the job of Kate Josh to have verified this, and I had to bring it to your attention. You are aware of this, yes?
I'm aware that you've been making complaints about...
No. Are you aware of the fact that Kate Josh... Are you aware of the fact that Kate Josh had given me disclosure from Manningham Housing, and as part of that disclosure, there was given to me somebody else's records?
No, sorry, I'm not.
So this is one of the reasons that I said you're not fully informed of it. I would suggest you go through the case file. In September, October last year, I within my rights had made a disclosure request. As part of that disclosure request, what was given to me was somebody else's personal data. All right.
Listen, I've heard that, but look, listen. This is my position. I am quite happy to have a constructive conversation with you about anything to do with the case. The moment that you start saying that I'm perverting the course of justice and I'm involved in some sort of criminal joint enterprise, that's where it ends.
Okay, sir. Okay, that's fair enough.
It's a waste of my time.
No, sir. I just informed you that that's what I'm going to put an application in for, didn't I?
Well, that's fine. You're going to sign a statement.
Yes. Yes.
I find it personally insulting, and it's not something I'm going to engage in.
No, sir. I'm sorry if I insulted you. I don't mean to insult you. I'm just giving you the truth, okay? I've just told you at the end of this call that I am going to put in a new application where I'm making the allegation that you have perverted the course of justice and been in contempt of court by failing to notify the courts according to an order that you had been privately commissioned out by the local authority on the 18th of July. So you forced me to go get this order, like the order before District Judge Wilcox previously, putting penal notices in place. The reason, and I'm very clear about this, the reason that I got arrested on the 8th was you messed up on the 18th of July. You know why you messed up? Because you were supposed to put a penal notice in. You didn't put a penal notice in for the next assessment. That's what you were supposed to do. All right, on the 18th of July, before District Judge Mitchell, what was supposed to happen was you were supposed to, and as you know from Mr. District Judge Mitchell's comments, it's evident to me that he was going to not listen to anything I'm saying, but you failed to put in a penal notice like you did last time. And because you failed to put in a penal notice, the local authority and yourselves realizing that I may not attend and it would have been a waste of another £1,000, you all decided that we're going to do it this way now. We're going to unlawfully arrest him and we're going to take custody of his brother. That's what's actually happened. It is a fact, isn't it, that there was no penal notice associated with bringing my brother to the assessment, was there?
There's no penal notice attached to the order of the 18th of July.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Sorry, I am going to go.
Yes, sir. But Mr. Smith, I don't mean to offend you. I don't mean to be like. Please don't get.
How can you not?
Pardon?
How can you not? Think about what you're saying about me. I know you talk about the word you and you having a wider context, but you are actually suggesting that I perverted the course of justice.
I've not said you personally, have I? I said the collective you, because.
But it has to be. Well, unless you're saying that I was under instructions to lay low right to the very last minute. But even then I would be involved first, which of course I'm not.
But can you understand what you're suggesting? In this society, I have a right to lay accusations against anybody. So I can lay the accusation against you that, oh, Mr. Smith, I think you're a racist. You can't get offended upon that. You can't get offended upon that. No, you can't.
It's your right to make it is. It's your right to make an allegation.
Yes.
Just as it's my right to
That's right. That's right. And so this, woke mentality of, oh, I'm deeply offended what you're saying. I'm saying it directly to you. I'm saying you, the collective, are part of a conspiracy. And if you're offended, that's only emotional offense. Me, I've suffered considerably. My mother's been murdered. That, irrespective of whether that's true or not, that is the reality that I feel I'm going through. I've been persecuted and hounded. These are quite clearly evidential for the last, irrespective of you being offended, for the last 58 days, I do not know where my brother is. That's a serious matter. My brother has human rights. Under the Human Rights Act, the Geneva Convention on the Human Rights Act, we have certain inalienable human rights. My brother has access to his brother. I'm his family member. And for me not to see or know where my brother is, that is inconceivably unacceptable. So just to end, because I don't want to get emotional, because I can see myself getting emotional. Sir, it's never my intention to personally offend you. You're a professional. I try to be a professional too. If I'm saying something, you should have a thick skin and say, well, provide the proof. Everything is evidence-based. If I'm saying something, I have the evidence, I believe. I believe I can convince the wider public of what's going on here, irrespective of the judges not being convinced or anybody else not being convinced. You should not take offense to the fact that I'm saying there is a conspiracy and you're part of that conspiracy because you're still here, and obviously there's something untoward happening. There's a whole list of unusual things happening on this case, particularly you not attending on the 31st of May, not being informed about it, you not being told by the court that there was a hearing on the 18th. There's a whole myriad of irregularities, and I'm saying that one irregularity is understandable or a mistake, or two irregularities around maybe a coincidence, but this whole batch of irregularities, it all stems from the fact that the local authority are trying to achieve an objective in order to cover up the criminal conviction that they've falsely criminally convicted me of, and been beneficiaries to a tune of over £1 million. So they have already, so they're going to lose £1 million. So there's a lot of money involved. Look, sir, you've been very gracious to give me your time. I am conscious that you're only going to give me 7 minutes. You give me a lot more than I anticipated. I am going to look to end the call now, and I just wanted to end to say that please don't take any offense personally.
Okay, understood, Mr. Hussain. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, bye.
So that was Mr. Jonathan Smith of, is it DWF or... Yeah, DWF Solicitors, all right? He is, a partner in the real estate litigation. And as you can see by speaking to him, he gives it, I'm going to take offense. I go, why are you going to take offense for? You cannot take offense. I can stand here and make the allegation that you are a racist. Russell Brand can take the allegations of being a sex predator and a rapist. You cannot take personally. You have to say, okay, well, fair enough. We're professionals. We are professionals. And particularly a solicitor, and if I'm making those allegations, I have to be in a position to make those allegations directly to these people, because otherwise nobody would ever get caught out with anything. And the aspect of simply saying, well, no, we're not, It's not justifiable. If I'm making the allegation, if I've made the allegation, then it needs to be investigated. Is there any evidence to corroborate my allegation? Simply saying, no, we're not. And the reason we're not is because we're in a position of authority and power. Because I'm a judge, because I'm a barrister, because I'm a doctor. You must trust me implicitly when I say I'm not done all these crimes. Because if that's the case, look at Russell Brand. Nobody, he's saying no, he hasn't. He's denied it. Then you should be saying no, he's denied it. We have to look at the evidence, irrespective of personal feelings and emotions. How can I not get offended? Are you a little crybaby? All right, I'm making it directly to your face. You are part of an enterprise that has resulted in my mother's death, that has resulted in my brother being incarcerated and taken away from me, where you're looking to make me homeless and everything like this. And now you're telling me that you don't have any availability now. You're a solicitor. You've not spoken to me before. All right, and now you're saying you don't have no availability because you're part of this enterprise. He's definitely in on it. He can give me this placard of this is what we were trying to do. I tried to explain to him, look, you've perverted the course of justice. You've not informed the courts of your failure to execute the order. That's clearly contempt of court and a pervert. And the fact that you've colluded and conspired to have me arrested, that's a perverting the course of justice. I've just giving you a heads up. You want to say inform me? I'm informing you. What's the problem now? Oh, the problem is that you're going to take offense now. What are you going to take offense for? My mother's been murdered. My brother's been kidnapped. I've been sent to jail falsely. I've had my money taken away from me to the tune of £500,000, or everything seized from me, degraded and humiliated, and you don't see me crying like a little baby. You don't see me reaching for my handbag and saying I'm deeply offended. What are you offended for? All right, I'm saying it to your face. You're a crook. You're all crooked. All right, if you don't like that, we're in court. You're not my legal representative. We're in an adversarial role. I've been courteous and respectful. Nothing should be taken personally. You're meant to be professionals. You're paid to do a job. Now you're telling me today is what? When is it? The 4th of October. He was going to give me 7 minutes. He's ended up giving me an hour. All right, so he has the time. He's just lying. All right, I don't have the time, and he's got no availability tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday because he's in court. They use that excuse all the time. Oh, I'm in court. You can work late. If you're sending emails and applications at 7-8 o'clock at night time, that means that you are working outside of the 9 to 5 core hours. All right, because on numerous occasions, I believe on the 17th of July, day before the 18th of July hearing, he sent an application at 8 o'clock. Now on Friday at 7-8 o'clock, he's also sent an application, so he can work outside of court times. So for him to say he has no availability is simply because he's not received instructions of what to do next. He is fully part of the joint enterprise, and obviously has to be. Otherwise, it doesn't work, does it? And he's put in an application very late on Friday, which has been issued out on Tuesday. My own application that I put in on Thursday, I do not know what's been happening. So yes, there is a collusion and a conspiracy by all these key professional peoples in prominent positions of authority and power that are collectively isolating and hounding me, and have kidnapped my brother and have murdered my mother, and there's no denying it. And they're just saying, no, what our defense is in order to your allegations is, nah, we didn't do it. Nah, you can't prove it. No. Like children, innit? Like being like imbecilic little children. Your defense is, no, we didn't do it. Well, why does the same defense not work for Russell Brand? He's saying he didn't do it. Why are everybody saying no? Effectively, he's done it, but he just needs to go through the court process now. You just can't. An allegation, if I made an allegation and I'm within my rights to make an allegation, and this is a very serious allegation, for it not to be investigated? When I made the allegation that you've murdered my mother, for there not to be no inquest? Why is there not be no inquest in my mother's death in order to invalidate what I'm saying? They can't do that because the inquest is being done by Bradford Council. They pay for the coroner's court. So it's a conflict of interest, no? This is what happened last time. Absolutely horrendous. They get offended. Why is he getting offended? He's getting paid, isn't he? I'm the one that's having my life ruined. I'm the one that's suffering. I'm the one that's having to go through pain, suffering. Me and my brother is suffering. That's not offensive. What we're going through doesn't matter. But you, as a partner in a solicitor's firm, can take offence. And what are you taking offence to? I can say to you, you're a racist. You shouldn't take offense to that. Your response should be, well, corroborate it. How am I a racist? How can you justify I'm a racist? What have I done to say I'm a racist? Equally, when I say you're colluding and conspiring, look at all of you. You've arrested arrested me from my home in the garden without justifiable cause, and you're saying that, oh, that in itself is circumstantial evidence. I put in an application. 24 hours later, I get arrested from my home on trumped up charges that I've neglected my brother when I'm living with my brother. And he's part of a court proceedings. Absolute bollocks. Absolute rubbish that they're talking about. They get offended. Yeah, here I am being persecuted, oppressed and victimized. And my mother murdered, my brother kidnapped. And I'm still putting on a kind of a professional front on all this. Do you think I'm not offended? Do you think I'm not going through psychological torture that you're torturing me like this? And I'm meant to remain cool, calm and collected, while the only way that you win, he's now going to go to court. He's not going to speak to the judge. He's going to get a paid barrister. And that paid barrister then, through the paid judge, is going to order me to pay the costs. So I'm going to have to pay not only this guy's cost, I'm going to have to pay the barrister's cost, because the judge is going to win this case for them without any railroad it through, because the judge is working on a quid pro quo basis for under the instructions of Bradford Council, the local authority. So yeah, it's all fraudulent and corrupt, all right? And you get offended, I get offended, because not only everybody gets offended to, everybody will get offended to injustice. We all, it's innate in human nature to be completely offended by injustice. We all hate it. Even in the animal kingdom, it's offensive for injustice. That is true offense. True offense is being subjected to injustice. And it's a complete injustice when the local authority, Bradford Council, can buy off the judges, can buy off the courts, can buy off everybody, can buy off the housing association, put together some sort of narrative, put together a coalition of partners, and all of them singing to the same tune, and hounding and persecuting me on my own as a single disenfranchised carer. All right, that is injustice. That is offensive. That is diabolical and disgusting. The fact that you've not replied to any of my emails, the fact that neither has the solicitors at the council replied to any of my emails, the fact that I'm leaving a message every day I want to see my brother. You can't just take my brother out of my life like this. I'm his sole carer. And what you were wanting to do. So you see, I caught him here, didn't I? He didn't know that I spoke to Eleanor and I made it clear to her, and she confirmed to me that she has no availability now in September. She has no availability in September. So for him to say that, oh, we were going to rearrange, there was no rearrangement. You cancelled on the 17th of August. You cancelled Eleanor's assessment for the 5th of September on the 17th of August. You did not make any rearrange any provisions in place to get a capacity assessment out. It would not have been done by Eleanor, because Eleanor confirmed to me when I rang her up and spoke to her on the 5th of September that she had no availability on the in the month of September. All right, so it's complete rubbish. And he was completely giving me some gobbledygook, and he said, "How do you know?" Because I rang her up. That's what you don't know. So you're quite intrigued to know how I know. But you're not telling me how you know about my bail conditions. How do you know? And who instigated this inquiry from on the 15th? Who instigated it? Who let the cat out of the bag? They're not telling me this, are they? They're not telling me this because they can't answer this. Oh, Mr. Hussain, I can't answer this. Who can answer it? Tell me who let the cat out of the bag that I was arrested. You wanted me to... You were inquiring from me on the 16th whether to get me to let the cat out of the bag, that I had been arrested, and I didn't. And I played along with your little trick. And then you thought, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. All right, because we want you to get out the cat out of the bag. Who let the cat out of the bag? All right, on the fact that I had been arrested to Manningham Housing Association. And why has the police then proceeded to give them my bail conditions? And why has Mr. Smith not rearranged for the capacity assessment throughout all of September, and only put in at 8 o'clock on Friday, the 29th, the fact that he's asking for the order to be varied? This is a complete botched job by DFS solicitors. They're a complete incompetent morons. All right, and I'm going to say this. I've not said it to him directly, but this is going to go public, and he is going to listen to this. What my thoughts are. This is my thoughts and opinions. All right, that you're all incompetent morons because you're trying to do something that you're not supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be doing your jobs properly. That's what you're trained to be doing. Nobody trained you to become a criminal. Nobody trained you to become a liar and a fraudster. You're looking to do this without the appropriate training, and you're getting caught all the time. And it's not just him. He's just another puppet that's been fronted. All right, it's the people in the background that are controlling him. And it's all going to come out. And look at these people. They're trying to make me homeless, trying to kidnap my brother and cause us pain, suffering, and misery. Who do these people think they are? All right, the buying of the judges, this is the most disgusting, deplorable and diabolical thing that they're doing, is buying off the judges, having the judges privately commissioned out in order for them to achieve their objective, to continue the facade and the lies and the deceptions that they have in place. He is upset. I was very calm, and when he was telling me I'm upset, I was getting upset. As you can see, I did not engage with him. I politely ended the conversation, but you can see, clearly upset and offended by the fact that they all work together, all right, in a joint enterprise, and then they call me a tin hat wearing conspiracy theorist. So he's using the word conspiracy all the time. I never use that word conspiracy because I know it's marred with negative connotations. It does not change from the fact that people conspire together. He had to get him to admit that people do conspire together, especially when there's money involved, especially when there's millions of pounds involved. Everybody's conspiring now to cover up the criminal conviction that they put me under. So yeah, it's all disgusting and despicable. Disgusting and despicable. Wasting my time and resources, getting me to pay for the money because you bought off the judges. This is the most heinous crime ever. You cannot and should not buy off the judges in order to railroad your narrative and then simply state that no, there's no evidence. Without, of course, there's plenty of evidence. It's just simply not a willing audience to listen to it because there's no solution to it. Is that judges, by their definition, have to be independent. A great deal of length is taken to make them independent, and if they're simply prostituting out their services to the local authority, that is offensive because you're denying the common man, the civilians like myself and everybody else, the right to justice because you're buying off the courts. That is truly reprehensible because we all need justice. Why do you think today, when the Home Secretary is stating that there's a hurricane of illegal immigrants coming to this country, why are they coming to this country? Because of the narrative and the facade that's been sold that British justice is true justice. In England, you get true justice and equality. Under that delusion that's been sold to the wider world, poor, impoverished people are running to this country because what do they want? They want justice, something that's been denied to them in their own respective countries. So justice is fundamental. The right to justice, the right to a fair hearing, the right to an impartial arbitrator is fundamental human rights. That's why people are running to this country, because they wrongfully believe that that is the truth, because they've been fed the rhetoric that is the truth. And their rhetoric, there's a disconnect between their rhetoric and the reality I face. The rhetoric that's been sold to the world, that there's true justice here in England, and the reality that me and my brother face, that there is no true justice. This is just another level of fraud and corruption and contrivance. Anyway.